time for Rewind, or what I like to call the Feeling Old segment, brought to you by our friends at AMC. This is a segment where we talk about the films celebrating their 10th anniversaries this week and the movies celebrating their 20th anniversaries this week. And whereas last week was a phenomenal anniversary weekend, this one, not so much. We have, celebrating its 10th anniversary, speaking of Mad Max Fury Road, Charlize Theron's Aeon Sucks. Aeon Flux. We also have, celebrating their 20th anniversaries, White Man's Burden with Harry Belafonte and John Travolta, and Wild Bill with Jeff Bridges. Schnepp, which of these films stand out to you?
I know the ones that don't stand out because I didn't see Wild Bill, so I can't comment on that. White Man's Burden, also didn't see that. I just remember reading about it. I was like, wow, that's a weird kind of alternate universe freak fest. Never saw it. Aeon Flux stands out to me because I loved MTV's Liquid Television, and specifically I loved Peter Chung's Aeon Flux. I thought that was one of the most groundbreaking, really fun, super trippy, freaky spy, psychosexual, animated freak fest things that was on Liquid Television. Every time Liquid Television was on, I couldn't wait to see another like 3-minute weirdo thing where Aeon Flux would die. How is she going to die every episode? And then they actually did a series where she didn't die, but it's like really fun, really cool. Movie, not so much. Actually, movie, kind of a disappointment. I give them props for trying to do such a super weird animated film and adapt it. And they tried in many ways to adapt a lot of the super weird things that are in that cartoon. They just don't lend themselves to adapting very well. And the movie itself kind of fell flat. And they did a lot of these things that aren't in the animated series, just like dumb story cliches. Like, really? Why are you sticking that into Aeon Flux? It doesn't even need it. So they kind of ruined it. And I can't recommend seeing it other than like an adjunct. If you're an Aeon Flux fan and you have the animated series, watch this as like the bizarro, strange experiment that they did that didn't work, that Charlize Theron is in. And she's great in everything. So,
Christian?
Aeon Flux, I remember when that came out, I was super excited to see it, because I remember the hype behind it, and I'm like, oh, this movie delivers. It could have really done a lot for bringing with the series and everything. Like, and I saw it in the Paramount lot, and I'll never forget. I saw it was like a test screening beforehand, and there was this guy who looked like he just found out like he lost everything he had, and he's just like, what was that? What was that? And he's screaming, and I'm like, that sums up what the movie was. It was so bad. It was so bad. And I just remember watching it going, oh man, this is every bit of potential that this had is just gone because of this movie. And it was disappointing. I did see White Man's Burden back in the day, and I remember that it was a really cool premise, and I remember both Harry Belafonte and
John
Travolta were really good in it, but it just lost. I think it lost a lot of I don't know, like it became a lot not very realistic towards the middle of it, and then the end I thought was. I remember watching it as a kid and being interested in the premise, and then I think it was fairly boring.
Was it like a parable or was it preachy? I just don't get it. It's
hard not to be
parable.
Okay. It's hard not to be preachy in that the movie in general too. So you kind of expect that going in, and that wasn't the problem with it. I just remember it just wasn't the execution. I think was
that's the word. It was a great concept. It was a great idea, and if some filmmaker came along today and tried it, I would still be fascinated with what they could do.
Right.
However, premise is just premise. It doesn't matter if it's the greatest premise in the world. It's about execution. To me, it didn't execute very well. And that's Aeon Flux as well. Aeon Flux was such a mess.
So bad.
It was such a mess despite the great casting and all the hope that it had. And Wild Bill's not bad, actually. I kind of liked Wild Bill. I had no problem with it.